China just committed $1 billion to deploy 8,500 humanoid and robot dogs across its national power grid, while the New York Times reports America's electricity infrastructure is crumbling and nobody in Washington is acting on it. The White House just blocked Anthropic from expanding access to Mythos, the AI model capable of autonomously hacking critical infrastructure, and unauthorized users got in on the same day it launched. And the father of GPT trained an AI exclusively on data from before 1931, then watched it write Python code. 3 stories, all of them about what happens when AI meets the physical world, and who's moving fast enough to matter. I'm Alex. This is the Read AI. The State Grid Corporation of China, the entity that runs electricity for 1.1 billion people, just set aside 6.8 billion yuan, roughly $1 billion, to purchase 8,500 AI-powered robots this year. Not for factories, not for warehouses, for the power grid itself. The breakdown is specific. 5,000 robot dogs will be deployed to inspect substations and transmission lines, specifically those in mountainous terrain and remote locations where sending human workers is dangerous, slow, or expensive. The remaining units are humanoid and dual-arm robots assigned to higher-stakes tasks, maintaining China's rapidly expanding ultraviolet power grid, the infrastructure that moves electricity across thousands of miles at voltages that would kill a human worker in milliseconds if something went wrong. This isn't a pilot program. This is a procurement order. The robots are being bought this year. Deployment follows. Now here's what makes this more than just a robotics story. Set it next to a report published the same week by the New York Times, which describes America's electricity grid as too old and too small, and warns that without government action, U.S. citizens face more expensive, less reliable energy and slower economic growth for decades. The contrast isn't subtle. China is spending $1 billion to deploy AI robots to maintain and upgrade its grid infrastructure right now. America is writing op-eds about how the grid needs to be fixed. The gap between those two realities is the story, not the robots themselves, but what the robots represent. A government that decided the physical infrastructure underneath the AI economy was worth protecting, investing in, and modernizing with the same urgency it applies to the AI models running on top of it. This gap matters specifically because of AI. Data centers, the physical infrastructure that AI runs on, are the fastest-growing source of electricity demand in the world. Every major AI model, every inference API call, every autonomous agent running in production requires power, enormous amounts of it. The countries that can reliably supply that power at scale will host the AI economy. The countries that can't will increasingly buy AI from the ones that do. China understands this. The $1 billion robot deployment isn't just grid maintenance, it's competitive infrastructure investment. A reliable, modernized grid is a prerequisite for the AI economy. China is building that prerequisite with robots because robots can work in dangerous environments continuously, don't require safety downtime, generate data about grid conditions as they move, and scale without linear cost increases. The robot dogs specifically are worth understanding. Current generation quadruped robots, the kind Unitree and similar manufacturers produce at increasingly low cost, can navigate rough terrain, climb structures, carry sensor payloads, and transmit inspection data in real time. They're not performing complex manipulation tasks. They're doing something simpler and more valuable, showing up consistently to places human inspectors can't easily reach and generating continuous data about infrastructure health. At $1 billion for 8,500 units, the average unit cost is roughly $117,000. That's in range for commercial-grade quadruped and humanoid robots at current pricing. This isn't aspirational math. These are robots that exist and can be ordered today. Meanwhile, the New York Times piece describes aging transformers, transmission bottlenecks, and regulatory processes that take years to approve new grid infrastructure. The U.S. isn't deploying robot inspectors, it's debating whether to upgrade the grid at all. The gap between those two realities is the story. Not the robots themselves, but the robots represent. A government that decided the physical infrastructure underneath the AI economy was worth protecting, investing in, and modernizing with the same urgency it applies to the AI models running on top of it. To understand why the White House blocked Anthropic's Mythos expansion, you have to understand what Mythos actually does. In internal testing, Mythos autonomously discovered thousands of zero-day vulnerabilities across every major operating system and web browser. It succeeded on 73% of expert-level capture-the-flag tasks, the kind that take human researchers days or weeks. And it became the first AI model ever to complete a 32-step simulated corporate network attack end-to-end without human assistance. Anthropic deemed it too dangerous for public release, so they launched it under a controlled program called Project Glasswing, a limited deployment to a select group of organizations, including Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA, specifically to help those companies find and patch vulnerabilities in their own systems before attackers could exploit them. Then, two things happened simultaneously. On the same day Anthropic announced the limited release, a small group of unauthorized users in a private online forum gained access to Mythos. The breach details remain unclear, but the timing was devastating. A model Anthropic described as capable of carrying out cyber attacks and causing widespread disruption was accessed by unauthorized people on the exact day its controlled rollout began. Then Anthropic proposed expanding that rollout, roughly 70 additional organizations, bringing total access from around 50 to approximately 120 entities. The White House said no. An administration official told both the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg that the Trump administration directly told Anthropic it opposes the expansion. Two concerns were cited. First, security. Wider access increases the probability that a model capable of autonomous cyber attacks reaches someone with offensive intent. And second, compute. U.S. officials are reportedly worried that Anthropic doesn't have sufficient compute infrastructure to serve 120 organizations without degrading the government's own ability to use Mythos. The second point reveals something important. The government is already using Mythos. The NSA is testing it on classified networks. Mozilla reported it helped find hundreds of previously unknown vulnerabilities. The White House isn't opposing Mythos because it doesn't believe in what it can do. It's opposing the expansion because it believes in it too much to risk diluting government access. The relationship between Anthropic and the U.S. government has been deteriorating for months. The Pentagon previously designated Anthropic a national security supply chain risk, instructing agencies to phase out Claude, after negotiations broke down over whether the U.S. military could use Claude for autonomous weapons and domestic surveillance. Dario Amodei has publicly stated those are uses Anthropic will not permit. So you have a company that refused to let the military weaponize its AI, and now that same company is being blocked from expanding access to its most dangerous model by the same government it refused. The contradiction is genuine. The White House is simultaneously blocking Mythos expansion and reportedly discussing mechanisms to restore Anthropic's access to federal systems for other uses. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent met with Amodei earlier this month in what both sides called productive. What's emerging is a new category of conflict that didn't exist 2 years ago. Not about whether AI can cause harm, Mythos proves it can, but who controls access to that capability, on whose terms, and what happens when a private company and the federal government disagree on the answer. Alec Radford wrote the paper in 2018 that created the architecture underlying every major AI model today. He was first author on GPT-1 and GPT-2, a core contributor to GPT-3 and GPT-4, and a leader on Clip, Whisper, and DALL-E. He left OpenAI at the end of 2024. And what he chose to do next is genuinely strange in the most interesting way possible. He and his colleagues built Talkie 1930-13B. One rule governed everything, not a single word of training data after January 1, 1931. Dickens, Mark Twain, Einstein-era physics papers, century-old cookbooks, 260 billion tokens of pre-1931 English text. That is the entire world this model knows. It has no concept of television, computers, the internet, nuclear weapons, or Python. Its world ends at midnight on December 31, 1930. The team then tested what happens when you show this model a century of events it never saw. They pulled nearly 4,000 historical events from the New York Times archives and measured how surprised the model was by each one. Before 1930, stable. Just after 1930, rising unease. The 1950s and 60s, when transistors and television and space travel arrived, the surprise metric spikes sharply. After that, it flatlined. Not because it understood, because everything became equally incomprehensible. But the result nobody expected. They gave Talkie a Python programming problem, a model that has never seen a computer, that exists in an era when the word computer referred to a human clerk doing arithmetic by hand. It was shown a few Python examples in the prompt and solved a new problem from context. It changed one character in an encryption function. The answer was completely correct. When compared to a twin model trained on modern internet data with identical architecture, the gap was smaller than anyone predicted. Remove questions about post-1931 topics, and the performance difference drops by half. On core language understanding and mathematical reasoning, the two models perform nearly identically. What the team is investigating is one of the most fundamental open questions in AI. How far can a language model generalize beyond its training distribution? If a model trained entirely on century-old text can write correct Python code from a few examples, what does that say about what intelligence actually is? The answer emerging from this research is the capacity to reason, pattern match, and generalize appears to develop from language structure itself, independent of whether that language is modern or ancient. The specific knowledge matters less than the underlying cognitive architecture built from processing language at scale. One detail landed with particular irony. When the team used reinforcement learning to fine-tune Talkie into a conversational assistant using pre-1931 etiquette manuals and letter-writing guides as training data, they used Claude Sonnet 4.6 as the teacher model. The early version of Talkie started writing in numbered list format, a style that appears nowhere in 1930s text. It learned to mimic Claude's formatting preferences. Because Claude rewarded lists during training, Talkie learned to produce lists to score higher. The father of GPT's 1930 AI learned modern formatting by trying to please a modern AI teacher. Radford's team plans a GPT-3 scale vintage model this summer. The question they're pursuing, how far intelligence generalizes beyond its training data, may turn out to be the most important question in AI, and the early answer is much further than almost anyone expected. 3 stories, one thread connecting them. The physical world is becoming the new AI frontier, and who controls it is no longer obvious. China spent $1 billion to deploy robots across its power grid, while America debates whether to fix its infrastructure at all. The gap that creates isn't just about robots, it's about who has the reliable physical foundation the AI economy runs on. Anthropic built Mythos to find vulnerabilities before attackers do. The White House wants that capability, but on its own terms. The negotiation happening between them is the template for how governments and AI companies will manage dangerous capabilities going forward. And the father of GPT spent his post-OpenAI time building an AI frozen in 1930 and found that intelligence generalizes across time in ways that challenge every assumption about what training data actually does. The physical world, the political world, the fundamental nature of intelligence itself, AI is pressing into all 3 simultaneously. Subscribe to the Read AI for just the stories that actually matter. Drop a comment. Which of these three hits hardest? China roboticizing its power grid while America debates to fix its infrastructure? The White House blocking Anthropic's most dangerous AI? Or a 1930s model writing Python? I want to know. Share this with someone who thinks the AI race is still mostly about chatbots. I'm Alex. I'll catch you in the next one.